Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be reviewing and discussing Shatter by Tahereh Mafi. Let me just say that this is one of my favorite covers that I've ever seen in a book. It's beautiful. I love the eye. It's very eye-catching. See what I did there? I don't know what it has to do with the story at all, but maybe they'll tell us. So Shatter is the first book in a series. It is about a girl who, when she touches you, you die. Now, it really picked up after the first, I would say, 100 pages or so. And then it got super fast, super interesting, and there was a lot of action going on, and I flew through the later half of the book. But what makes this book really unique is the writing style. It's very poetic. I knew what to expect because I have heard from other people that it's very poetic, and I hear a lot of praise for the writing style and its uniqueness. There's a lot of cross-outs in the book. There were instances where Juliet would like write things and then she would be, oh no, that's too weak, I can't think that. No, I'm ashamed of that, I can't think that. And she would just be like, cross it out, cross it out, cross it out. For example, on the cover we have, my touch is lethal. Nope. My touch is actually power. Okay. But yet again, we can't actually see what she writes because it's a line, so I can still see what she was thinking. In some instances, I felt like it furthered her story by showing what she was thinking initially and then her realizing that maybe wasn't the best approach. But in other instances, it just was annoying. I'm like, just say what you mean. If that's what you mean, say it. If it's not what you mean, don't say it. If you're gonna cross it out, why are you even thinking about it? It's obviously not what you're intending to say. So I think on Goodreads, I'd rated Shatter as a 4 out of 5 stars, between 4 and 4.5 stars. I would definitely recommend reading it. It was very fast paced. It was very gripping. There was a lot of action scenes going on. However, it is a love story. I didn't mention that. It is a love story. Big emphasis on that. More romance than dystopian. So that's all I'm going to say for Shatter if you have not read it. So for those of you who haven't read it, goodbye. So if you don't want to be spoiled for it, I would leave now. So Shatter it was a fantastic book. I read through it fairly quickly. However, if there is one thing I would say Shatter is lacking, and would be any sort of comedic relief. Maybe you can argue that Kenji was funny, but I didn't entirely ever trust the guy. Or maybe perhaps James. I mean, there were some instances where James like said something and you're like, oh, that's really cute. But there wasn't really a character that lightened the mood. This book could definitely have used that, especially in the first 100 pages. Juliet's in isolation. It would have been nice if Adam was at least funny so he could have lightened the mood in those instances, but he wasn't. So, Juliet. Juliet is probably one of the most frustrating lead characters to read from. She's very dramatic. It's written in a way where the writing is at first very poetic. Then there's a point where the writing becomes extremely tedious and you're just like, shut up, Juliet. I don't want to hear you repeat yourself 600 times about death. All the darkness. Darkness, darkness, darkness. Swallows you up, and spits you out. Ooh. And there were some times where she would be describing a scene and it would turn into paragraphs of a very long metaphorical tangent. I don't need all of that extra fluff and puff. And also, I realized that there were a lot of metaphors to butter. She mentions butter at least 3 times in this book. There are 3 instances where she compares something to butter. Confused and like, every time I read it, I couldn't take that scene seriously because you're comparing it to butter. Whether it was melted butter, butter from the fridge, butter from a cow, churning butter, I don't remember. It's almost like Juliet couldn't adapt. She was just so incredibly weak in certain situations that she would just complain about the same situation over and over and over again. And then once someone presented her with a solution to her problem, she still wouldn't accept the solution and move on. She still complained about the problem over and over again. It's like, you already have a solution, just move forward. Because Juliet is a slightly weaker character, she has this issue with fainting. I mean, she knows it, we know it as readers, but literally in every instance where something slightly traumatizing happens, she's fainting. She's on the ground. Somebody shoots a gun, somebody blinks an eye, somebody looks at her the wrong way, and she is on the ground, just completely catatonic and cannot function. Before we know it, she's, oh my god, the darkness is closing in, and death, and I can't feel, and I don't know what I want, and oh my gosh. Get a grip, girl. And back to the situations where she complains about things. An example of that would be like she is complaining a lot in the book about being hungry, about starving. She's given food, but she doesn't trust the food, so she won't eat it. Well, look, Juliet, you've been given a solution. Eat the damn food already. You've been complaining for the last 2 paragraphs that you're hungry. Just eat the food and move on. You're gonna die if you do eat the food. You're gonna die if you don't eat the food. So what's the difference? You know, what's the difference? At this point, what's the difference, Juliet? And then perhaps if you ate the food, you wouldn't be fainting all the time when Warner happens to even blink an eyelash at you. You won't be on the ground. An environment that she is not in control of, making yourself more vulnerable by making your actual body weak because you won't feed it. I mean, Juliet, think through your action. I mean, you spend so much time thinking about other things. You think you'd have time to think about your actions. And I don't feel like I'm being too harsh on her. Solution to your problem is like right there. It's like so obvious. So I don't feel like I'm being mean because I just feel like she's being dumb. It really took Juliet, I think, until a time where she had the first connection with Adam for her to change her thought process. Until then, she was just the most frustrating narrator. So then we get introduced to Warner, who is this evil, slightly psychotic head of this militaristic group. I don't like him. I don't like Warner. I think he's creepy. He's weird and creepy. Yet I feel like he might be introduced at some point as like a third love interest, because there are people who are Team Warner, and I'm just baffled by how you can possibly be Team Warner. Really? Are you really Team Warner? So like, what does he do that is redeemable? I don't see how that is even possible. But that moment when she pulled the trigger and she shot Warner, I was like, yes. I mean, there was a slight possibility that that bitch would die. Obviously not, because you need all 3 points to a triangle. I don't want to say I'm Team Adam necessarily either, because I don't fully trust Adam. The Adam-Juliet relationship is very interesting because it almost is an insta-love situation. They haven't really ever spoken, but then you get this really hot, intense, sexy shower scene. He's like touching her and they're, you know, making out and everything. Whoa. Wait a minute, he can touch her? And then the next thing, Juliet, I love you. My reaction was, you love her? I mean, do you really even know her? You didn't know until a second ago you could even touch her. You have to consider their backstory. They have known each other since they were children. However, does the backstory really justify the intense attraction? Does it back up that insta-love? I don't know if I buy that. I mean, I can see where Juliet would come from feeling that way. She's never been touched before. I can see where she would fall in love with the first person that was ever, you know, showed her the light of day. It progressed really quickly. What if he loses his immunity? What's going to happen then? Because that's like the whole basis of the relationship, is that he can actually touch her. James flat out says in the book, that's awfully convenient that that girl that you've been obsessed with for years, that you are madly in love with, you can touch, and you're the only one who can touch her. Well, that's a coincidence. But then we find out that Warner can also touch her. That's just incredibly convenient. Fishy. So then I'm thinking maybe Adam has an ability. Maybe there's something that allows him to touch her. But then for him to have this ability, Warner would have to have the same ability, and that just seems highly improbable. And so then I started thinking, well, maybe they're related in some twisted, creepy way. I just want there to be a solid reason for why Adam and Warner both have immunity to her touch and how that is developed. Castle even says that there are no coincidences. So there has to be something more going on with that. It's not just a random occurrence. And this whole power storyline, totally didn't see that one coming. Nope. When the book first started, I thought Juliet was this random occurrence, this single instance of these weird powers, and that's why she's locked in a mental institution, because, I mean, what else do you do with a girl that has weird powers? But then that was kind of bothering me, because why would it be one random occurrence of a power like this? And then we got to that underground facility, Omega Point. That threw me for a loop. And everybody's in uniforms, and I was thinking, Okay, so we've arrived at the X-Men headquarters. I mean, I don't know what I was thinking. I'm not really sure what I was expecting going into this novel, but I wasn't really thinking that it was going to end with the X-Men cast emerging. I mean, these people have freaking uniforms that are specially crafted to endure their abilities. I mean, hello, that is every X-Men uniform ever. They were at Professor Xavier's School for the Gifted. Castle might as well have been Professor Xavier. Speaking of superhero comics, let's talk about the Juliet Hulk smash section. I really wasn't expecting that scene, and I really was having a difficult time picturing it and taking it seriously, because in my mind, I just pictured Juliet like running through the wall like a cartoon would and leaving a silhouette cut out in the wall of Juliet, rubble everywhere. It was very contradictory to how she was behaving in almost every other scene. Help me. She can smash concrete? Like, what? So not only can she suck the life out of people by touching them like Rogue, but she can also become the Hulk and smash things to smithereens. Then we have this predicament with Warner at the end. They start hardcore making out in the middle of the street so she can get the gun from him and shoot him. And then she's realizing that they have a connection and that she's actually feeling things for him, and there's sparks and there's chemistry. I'm just thinking in my head, how does this boy redeem himself to be a viable love interest where people are actually choosing him over Adam? Now again, I don't entirely trust Adam. What does Warren do that's redeeming? I'm really excited to see how Juliet is trained and how she learns to harness her powers and what the full extent of her powers are and kind of where she fits in this whole society of gifted people. I'm interested to see what the other gifted people can do. Now, like I was saying before, I don't entirely trust Adam. I don't know what it is. She and Adam are escaping from Warner's compound, and Warner is trying to cast doubt on Adam and is trying to cast doubt in Juliet. From the beginning, there was something about Adam I just didn't trust. It's like a gut feeling that there's just something about him that he's lying to her. I'm not digging. I'm not buying his little like charade that he's got going on. But with that being said, he is very kind and he is very loyal to help develop and bring out Juliet and help change her. So I don't really know. I don't know what really to think of him. I'm just really not sure where we're going with the series and what's going to happen in the next book. I mean, does Warner seduce Juliet and that's how he like wins her affection? But then people wouldn't really be Team Warner, I feel like. I want some more world building because there were a lot of instances where I was very confused and I wasn't really sure what was going on. They don't ever really explain what happened to the world to make it the way it is. And Castle hints at it a little bit at the end of the book when she gets to Omega Point. Those are all my thoughts for Shatter Me. Tell me what you thought of this book down below. I'd love to hear what you thought of it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I'll talk to you very soon. Bye! I always do it with my hands. It's like the most annoying thing I ever do, and I just can't stand it. And this shirt, I don't know what's going on with this shirt. We are not getting along today, and this camera is in my way, and you were in my way! Move! Because obviously what you're not... The writing style is extremely unique. It's nothing like... The writing style is... The shirt is going all crookedy, crockety.